Hello and welcome to Sri Lanka 99.94 Cricket Every Day. My name is Mark Machado from the Merrily End, and I'm joined as always by Estelle Devon from the Papare. Sri Lanka 99.94 is your new home for Sri Lanka content, and will be dropping into your podcast feed on YouTube and on the app 99.94 several times every week. So please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you for joining Cricket's Conversation. Estelle, you are in Geelong in Victoria, Australia. We are on the eve of Sri Lanka starting their T20 World Cup campaign. At the point of recording this, we are about 20 hours away, exactly 20 hours away from the opening fixture against Namibia. And there's news coming out of the camp this morning that Dilshan Madhushankar might not make that first fixture, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, big blow for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had their final training session ahead of the game today at Gardenia Park. They hadn't trained there before, so they were in the nets from 9 to 12 today. And Madhushankar unfortunately pulled up a few deliveries into his first over and went into the dressing room, and we didn't hear from him. News is that it's a quad injury. He's gone in for an MRI, so we won't know. Probably by the time this recording is out, we probably know the severity of the injury. But it's not looking good for tomorrow. I don't think he will make it into the playing 11 tomorrow. So it'll have to be Lahiru Kumara, which I guess in a way everyone was debating: should Sri Lanka play Kumara or Madhushankar, or what do they do? Do they play all three? Well, the decision has kind of made itself right now. So looks like it'll be Kumara and Chamira coming in. So Pramod Madhushan will be on the bench as well. And of course, Chamika to supplement.
Of course, I think first and foremost, we've got to say we hope Dilshan Madhushankar makes a swift recovery, and we see him back playing cricket very soon. Since I start this podcast, and I assume it's been the same for you. I don't know, Estelle. I've had loads of people get into message me on DM on Twitter at Mark Machado talking about who should start and who shouldn't start for Sri Lanka. One of the big ones, one of the people who's got a lot of fans is Lahiru Kumara. We know he hasn't bowled competitively for a number of months, though. But I thought he's one of the breakout stars of last year's T20 campaign, and it looks like he's going to get a chance again. And I hope he can grab it with both his arms, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with Kumara is that I know technically, on the speed meter, he and Chamira bowl a similar speed, right? They're both in the high 140s, touching the 150s. But Kumara just seems to hit the bat so much harder than Chamira. He's got that aggressive intent as well. And particularly in this first round, where Sri Lanka will be playing three associate nations, um, I think he's he's going to be a big threat for them. And we saw that, like you mentioned, in the previous World Cup as well. In that first round, it was just, to be honest, it was just that one over against David Miller that went wrong for him in that tournament. He did so well. He was brilliant against Bangladesh as well. Unfortunately, though, since that World Cup, he hasn't had too much of game time with injuries and this whole. I think it's a confidence thing as well, because I believe we spoke about it in a previous episode where he had a similar situation to the one with Miller in the LPL as well, where he was defending nearly 20 and the opposition were able to get there. So his confidence also probably took a huge blow with those two performances. So injury wise and in that mentally as well, I don't think he's had a really good year. So it should be really interesting to see how he goes in this tournament. Like I said, he hasn't played international cricket since March. So that's a long, long time for fast bowler, someone who will want to get into his rhythm pretty quickly. But again, the qualifying round, I guess, again is a bit of a blessing in disguise for Sri Lanka. I'm saying that in the hope that Sri Lanka will be able to qualify for the next round, but it gives them the opportunity to try get players like Kumara back into the fold and get things going. Even Chamira, missed out on the Asia Cup with injury. So it's a good opportunity to get that pair going, get them in their groove. And now really there's no choice. They have to play those two in the 11.
Yeah, Sri Lanka obviously have been in Australia for a couple of weeks now. They were due to play 2 warm-up games this week against Zimbabwe and against New Zealand. The Zimbabwe game happened. They won it quite convincingly. The Ireland game, which was meant to be a couple of days later, ended up being rained off. So Sri Lanka are effectively having to use these 3 warm-up games as their qualifiers. They haven't played a huge amount of, well, they've just played one game, batted 40 overs since winning the Asia Cup about a month ago. Chris Silverwood, and when he's spoken about it, has been quite bullish about it and said, they don't need to play the warm-up games. They can play, create match scenarios, but by them, within themselves. What was the mood like around the camp when you went to see them earlier on today?
Yeah, they looked really confident. I think what you get from these players is the kind of feeling that they are all really enjoying being out there. You don't really see too many of them slacking off. So everyone's wanting to have a bat. Tikshana, Dushmanta Chamir, all of them wanted to have a bat at the end of the next session. Um, Everyone wanted to roll their arm over. We saw even guys like Ashin Bandara, who's on the standby list, coming and bowling a few overs. So that's the good thing. I think that intensity and that kind of attitude is there. And I think I was speaking to one of the coaches as well. He's talking about that kind of attitude where you don't have slackers in the Sri Lankan team. So that's really like amazing to hear, because I think that the whole thing is that these guys are also so determined to prove themselves, because they've had such a bad couple of years, right, leading up to that Asia Cup. The and I'm sure they don't want that to be just a flash in the pan where they had one good tournament and they're back to zero again. So the attitude seemed really good. They seemed confident. Guys really hitting the ball well. Danushka Gunatilaka hasn't been in great form in matches, but I know I'm basing it off one net session, but he looked like he was middling everything. So I think overall they're feeling pretty good going into the first game of the tournament. The warm ups didn't go to plan, and I guess it was a bit baffling to see that not much was tried out in that only warm up that they got to play. They just played the 11 players. They didn't try out anybody. So Kumara hasn't had a ball even in the warm up games. But I guess, like you said, they're pretty confident that the match situations they play will be sufficient going into these 3 games. So let's see. But mood definitely seemed pretty high. Yeah.
Now we'll have a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what the rest of the playing 11 might look like for the opening game.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So Estelle, the other conversation we've been having for the past few weeks is it's got to be 3 into 2 from DDS, Danushka and Charatha Sri Lanka. 2 of those will have to fit into numbers 3 and 4 in the batting lineup. Do you have any steer on who those 2 might be?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be Gunatilaka and Dhananjay De Silva. Sri Lanka will start on the bench in this tournament, which is, I mean, I'm a big fan of Charita Sri Lanka, because I know, I feel like he's such an impactful player. And it's sad to see, because 1 year ago, he was the star born in the 2021 World Cup, right? Everyone was talking about him, the kind of impact he had coming in during the power play. But like we've spoken about, I don't think Dhananjay De Silva is not an easy guy to drop right now, particularly with Sri Lanka out of form, because he offers so much with the ball as well. I don't think they were really considering dropping Danushka Gunatilaka, because I believe the thinking is they want either Asalanka or Dhananjay De Silva to just bat at number 3. Um, so it seemed like it would be a toss-up between those two. So at the moment, with form, it's tough to pick Asalanka over De Silva, particularly as they haven't had any games coming into this tournament, and which is why the warm-ups were so kind of interesting. They picked 11. They picked Dhananjay De Silva and Danishka Gunatilaka. Charita Asalanka didn't get a chance to bat, so that's why it was a bit surprising, because you'd think they'd want to try out the 7 batsmen they have in the squad. But yeah, looks like Asalanka will be starting on the bench.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because definitely he's one of the breakout stars of last year. He was the highest run scorer at last year's edition of the tournament. He's not really done anything bad apart from not really make a big knock at the earlier on in the Asia Cup. But as you say, DDS, weirdly, he's like, I think the comparison I can make for him is almost Tilakarani Dilshan, right? Because he can do a bit of everything. He can kind of bat a bit of everywhere if you need him to do. He can play many roles in the team. And with Danushka, he can just batter that ball and get it to the boundary, right? And if, one of the problems that we have had is not being able to put up competitive scores because we can't get to, our run rate drops. And I think at this point in their careers, and I think Asalanka will definitely get there. We have to remember how young he is. Danushka is just a bit more of a guarantee of someone who's not going to chew up balls. He's just going to keep the run rate going, or he's going to get himself out. And I think we have to remember at the moment, leading Sri Lankan cricket, leading the senior men's side, people like Chris Silverwood and Mahela Jayawardene, they're very innovative thinkers. And they think it's definitely a winning first mentality, right? And it's like, how do we win? One of the great strengths of Sri Lankan cricket over the years has been innovation, hasn't it? And it's innovation out of necessity, not because we're great. We are great thinkers of the game, obviously, but you know what I mean. They've had to try and do something to get them out of a situation. Possibly this is the masterstroke that moves this team on to the next level. And obviously, if it doesn't work out, we can just bring him back in. It's not like he's been sent home, is it?
So you know what's ironic?
It's interesting, and I think
it's that Dhananjay De Silva was in exactly the same position leading up to the last World Cup, right? He was named vice captain and just, went through a horrid patch of bad form and spent the entire tournament on the bench. So he probably, I hope, will be having a chat with Asalanka as well, because like you said, that guy, he's got so much potential and he's still young. He has a long way to go, hopefully 10, 15 years in the Sri Lankan jersey. So De Silva, as a leader, as a senior member of that side, I'm sure we'll be also having a chat with Asalanka, just keeping him motivated and his spirits up.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take another quick break. When we get back, let's talk about what we can expect from these 3 opening games and who potentially is going to be the harder fixtures.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So Estelle, first up is Namibia. They played some good cricket last time round. They got themselves out of the group as well, didn't they? I think I want to say it's a potential banana skin, but I also want to say 2 things about it. The Sri Lanka team going into the last World Cup, if we think about where we were this time last year, people are having serious conversations on whether or not they'll get out of the qualification group, which they managed to do at canter quite easily. And then since then, we've seen a team that's developed. I think that we should expect to win. I think we should expect to win all these 3 games. I think Namibia is potentially the hardest fixture because I think they've got the players who've got the most amount of experience at this kind of level, even though we'll talk about the Netherlands in a moment. The Netherlands have done quite a lot the last few months as well. But that said, they've got to go and put performances in, right? They can't rely on you know on hoping that someone else is going to save the day, or Hasaranga is going to have a crazy over and get 4 wickets or something like that. They've all, that's what I think I'm looking for, and I assume many other people will as well, is that we put in a performance as an 11, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd probably say Netherlands will be the toughest side, just only because they have been playing a lot more cricket than Namibia. But like you said, it's a T20 game, right? Anything can happen, and when it happens, it's very difficult to come back from a situation because the game is so quick. So Sri Lanka will definitely want to go out there and dominate, because from what I gather, they're all what they did last year was the confidence they got through those first 3 games is what carried them through that tournament. So similarly here as well, they'll want to use these 3 games. Obviously, the first target would be to win, but to put in as good a performance as you can in each game, just to build that confidence and that momentum. Because what we saw even in the Asia Cup was each game, Sri Lanka wanted to win. They wanted to keep that momentum going. They wanted to stay up there. So, because and that's clear from even the dead rubber they played against Pakistan. They didn't experiment. They wanted to put out their best 11 and like keep that winning momentum going. So similarly here, they won't want to relax because, like I said, T20 is a really quick game, and one player can change the complexion of it like in an instant, right? And all 3 of those teams uh, have the type of players who can change games on its head. So, and they've got experienced players who played around the world. They played global leagues, so they won't want to take those teams lightly. But you'd expect Sri Lanka to win all 3 games comfortably and move on to the next round.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case, and hopefully we can build up, get that momentum as well. I'll never, last year's tournament, even though we didn't get into the semi-finals, even we got knocked out of the group stages, but such great memories. And mainly when you reflect back on it, it's memories of just us battering smaller cricketing nations, isn't it? But there you go. Estelle, before we kind of wrap this up, I just want to ask you about your experiences in Australia so far. You've only been there a few days. I find it hilarious because every time we come on one of these records while you've been there, I've been going, how do you find it? And you go, it's really cold. And then you reveal that the temperature is like 15 degrees. And obviously being a born and bred Londoner, I'm like, that's almost summer over here. How are you finding it? What's the experience been like so far? Tell us everything.
Yeah, it's cold. Come on. We are used to having 30-degree weather, right? So this is like incredibly cold outside. The wind is so chilly. Even like inside the press box, it's cold. So, but overall, I mean, it's been fantastic. When I went for the first training session today, and it was really nice. Players were really chatty. Um, the facility is obviously really good. So it's good to go out there and actually see them in training and see how things are going. And I think the best part of it was that there's a lot of positivity and you know, kind of good energy around the squad. You have guys like Vanindu. Hasaranga was the last guy out of the nets, right? And each one of them thanked the net bowlers. Some of them took pictures. There were little kids who had come outside. I saw Mahela also taking a couple of pictures. So it was really great. I think that's why a lot of people they like the Sri Lankan team, right? Because they're really polite, they're friendly. So it was really nice to see them and be around that kind of atmosphere. Um, but of course, I just hope they keep winning so that my journey in the World Cup continues as well. But yeah, it was really good to go into training today. Hopefully, it gets a little bit warm in the next couple of days. I will say I'm really thankful it's not raining, because when I landed here, it was raining. That just made everything just a little bit worse. But yeah, so far, so good. I won't complain about the cold anymore, just in case I, trigger something else.
No. Please complain about the cold. It's hilarious. I don't know. I don't know if this is the right question to ask you, but do the players recognise you? Do they know you as a journalist who covers them, and like, do you chat to them, or are they a bit like they have no idea who you are? I don't know. What's your relationship with the team, basically?
Yeah, I'm not sure all of them recognize me, but I do know a couple who I have interviewed or, spoken at press cons with. Of course, the last couple of years we've been mostly virtual. Um, so there's like hardly been any opportunities to kind of meet with the players. But they're generally like really nice. They'll talk to you if you want an interview or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I won't say that they all know who I am, but yeah.
Just that gives me an incredible amount of happiness for you, Estelle. Like, just turning up and Hasaranga knows who you are, and he's excited to see you. Big smile on his face. I'm just excited for you, and I wish I was there, because it sounds like you're all having a great time in the cold.
I don't think Hasranga knows who I
Not
am. I will say that.
Not yet. He will do. He will do eventually. Right, I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you for listening to Sri Lanka 99.94, where we speak cricket every day. Please do rate, review, and subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcast. You can download the 99.94 app and follow us on Twitter at Mark Machado and at Estelle. At Estelle _Vasu Dev 1, as in the number 1. Never miss out. Join our 24/7 conversation on social media and follow us at 99.94 DM. Cricket every day, your way.